since they've had it.
Okay, we're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Cost, Bub, Blake, Marmee, and I believe Frazier is walking in. Mark Labutus will set it for him until he walks in, actually. So, first item on the agenda is a request for appropriation. It's actually a transfer in the amount of $102,354. Yeah, $102,354.
Yeah. This is an appropriation into a transfer fund. What happens is all of our expenses in water administration, which have been included in our water office, are paid out of our water fund, and then we have to reimburse the water fund out of our sewer funds for half the cost because we split the cost. And it's a spreadsheet we do every year. I don't know why we came out incorrect this year, so we need to appropriate a little bit more money so the sewer fund can pay the water fund the appropriate amount of money. So,
okay. I'll offer a motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Cost. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Roger. Now, Frazier is now sitting here. So next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation amount of $4,000.
I'll speak to it since Director Rhodes isn't here. Director Rhodes decided to try and do a third auction this year. We didn't have money in the account, so he's going to transfer money to the account to be able to do the auction.
Motion. Second. I have a motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $4,000.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is in reference to a new grant opportunity. So the $4,000 is a part of that, but Kay Spurgill from the local Mental Health and Recovery Board applied for a grant on behalf of the court, and it was approved. It's called Addiction Treatment Program, and it's for our drug court participants. So she'll oversee the financial part of the grant, but part of the grant is to give the court that was approved a $4,000 amount of money for administration fees. So that's why we're here today, for just the $4,000.
Motion. I have a motion by Frazier, second by Cost. Questions and or discussion? Frazier.
You know how much the total grant was for?
I don't, and basically what happens is if we feel the treatment team and the drug court feels that services like support or addiction treatment is necessary or warranted, then we will submit a form to the Mental Health Recovery Board. They will review it, and then they'll determine what the cost is, and then they partner with local community agencies. They have contracts with them, and then they distribute the money, and then our participants will receive the treatment or the support, whatever it is. I have a list here of lots of different things that it can pay for, stuff like housing, transportation, child care, diagnostic assessments, medication-assisted treatment, a ton of stuff. So it'll be a benefit, a huge benefit for our drug court participants. Yes.
Yes.
Does it cover 100%, or is there a match associated with the person, or is it by a case-by-case basis?
It'd be case-by-case, but let's just say they go to medication-assisted treatment, they would cover that. Or housing, I think, is only for 3 months. It's kind of a bridge until they get more permanent housing. So it would depend on what service they're going after, and then they would discuss with us, hey, we're going to pay this amount or that amount. But it's they're going to oversee all the payouts to agencies and all that. All we're really responsible for is the $4,000 in administration fees that they're giving us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to accept bids and sell certain surplus personal property now owned by the City of Newark, Ohio, and declaring that such property is no longer needed for any municipal purpose and declaring an emergency.
It's a service item, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It was in my forms. Never mind.
That's all right. It's all good.
Sorry.
Mr. Rath wants to do
Yeah.
that.
Next item on the agenda is a request for an appropriation amount of $20,095.81. And Autumn, I'll ask you to please remove the last portion that says city auction expenses. I believe that was copied and pasted from another thing, but this is not the city auction expenses.
That's correct. Mr. Chair, as you know, this is just from the unappropriated balance of the bed tax fund, and we're just simply appropriating it so we can get it out into the community.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And with that, this Finance Committee meeting stands adjourned. And next is the Service Committee, who will be presenting the resolution that I talked about.
Okay, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bud, Lane, Blake, and Lane. First order on the agenda, to no surprise with anyone else in the room. Resolution number 19-78, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to accept bids and sell certain surplus personnel property not now owned by the City of Newark, Ohio, and declaring such property is no longer needed for any municipal purpose and declaring an emergency. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the first time during my tenure anyways, we're going to have a third public auction. Earlier, Director Baum was up to ask for $4,000 for various items. We need to put that auction on. What I'm asking you now is to pass this resolution so we can have an auction on December 7th. Cars are coming in pretty quick, and we'd like to get them out just as quick.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub. Seconded by Lane. I just have one really quick question.
Sure.
We do have an awful lot of cars that come in and out. Do we volunteer or donate these cars to our police and fire departments, our safety forces for training at any time, or has that ever been considered?
I don't think it's not been considered by, that's not a conversation Steve Baum and I have had. It's not a conversation I'm not opposed to having if they can find a way to use one or two for.
And the other reason I brought that up is I saw a recent article where Crispus has been gracious enough to allow our rescue teams to
Come in and do that?
practice on our jaws of life and various things like that. But if we have vehicles, and I did notice in the inventory, at least one of the vehicles was already burned up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have an opportunity to use that for car fire training, for
Sure.
jaws of life rescuing or trap rescuing or
No problem. I heard you. Director
volunteering
Baum,
up
I'll
for
talk
Buckeye
about
Lake for submersion. training.
submersion. We got our own pond up there in 13.
That too.
Yeah, I got you. All right, I got you.
Just an idea. All right, any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Boss. The only reason, yes. The other reason I brought up is because I remember when we built this fire station. We had close quarter rescue. So we don't want to training for very specific things. So we have specific training. Bomb squad. Water rescue is by the way. That's why I brought it up. Fair enough. Let's get to what works.
I'll bring it up. I'll run a flight. It's an idea I hadn't thought of.
We got vehicles, and we can still sell them for scrap when they're done.
And like the run-up vehicle, that's exactly what I sold. I sell for $150 for scrap is weight. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll come up to your office. All right.
Yeah, I was talking about
We started talking about our movie.
yeah, when I talked to Dave, heard all of it. Did I not say we're adjourned? I apologize. Safety committees, or service committees adjourned.